All right. Very good evening to everyone. Welcome to the CLAT Possible official YouTube channel. So today we are going to take up certain articles from the newspaper and we are going to discuss them. We are going to only take up the ones that are important for us from our competitive examination perspective. Now, as all of you are aware, the past 2 days was the presentation of the economic survey on the 31st of January. And on the 1st of February, since the budget session has begun, yesterday our Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman presented the budget. And so hence, and since both of these topics have been taken up by your GK mentor, I am not going to get into that. And since it was the economic survey and the budget and it is rather current, the entire newspaper is filled up with articles of critical analysis of the budget as well as that of the economic survey. And since that has been taken up already, let's not look at that. Let's pick out certain other topics that are in the news, and that is what we are going to do today. Apart from that, as I had told you in my previous class also, I hope and pray that all of you are reading the top headlines that are being that are being jotted down by your mentors, and it is available on your CLAT Possible official website as well as on the social media platforms. I hope you're learning the GK quiz because a lot of hard work is going into that, and that is just and only for you, as well as the historical events of each and every day are being consolidated by your mentors. So keeping all of that in mind, let's go ahead. So today we are going to start off with the very first one, which is Canadian province experiments with decriminalizing of hard drugs. Now, firstly, let's talk about our constitution. So, the directive principles of state policy, which forms a part of part 4 of the constitution, which gives the state a sort of vision for it to become a welfare state, has a lot of principles. There are socialistic principles, there are Gandhian principles, and also liberal and intellectual principles. Now, if we take into cognizance the Gandhian principle, there is an article called Article 47 that talks about prohibition of intoxicating drinks and drugs. That is what our government is supposed to do, is why our government has come up with the Psychotropic Substances Prohibition Act, and also a bureau which is very much in the news, not only right now, but also in the previous year, which is the Narcotics Control Bureau. So our objective is to sort of take away the drugs from the system. Nasha Mukt Bharat was something that we also saw in the Republic Day parade. Now, if we talk about the Canadian province, the province that we are talking about is British Columbia. Now, what is this province looking at? Now, I'm going to give you an example of Portugal. So back in 2001, Portugal became the first country in the world to legalize all drugs. And that is not so that the people start doing a lot of drugs and they become a lot, the strength of drug addicts increases in their system. It was basically to promote this fact that drug addiction is somewhere down the line linked to I would not call it a mental illness, but a sort of a condition of the mind which can be taken care of only and only when we go to an addict and we actually give that addict that kind of help, right? So obviously, keeping that in mind, Portugal became the first country to legalize all the drugs because they realized that the number of drug addicts had really increased, and the people who were doing a lot of overdose and dying because of that had also increased in their country. Now, keeping that as an example, British Columbia has come up with its own experiment. Now, we are not talking about marijuana here. We are talking about hard drugs like cocaine and many other drugs. Now, of course, they have not legalized these drugs, but they have said that in case a person has these drugs in less quantity, instead of putting them behind the bars, we are going to give them a lot of counseling, and we are going to ensure that they don't get get into such habits. So that is what is the first news all about. This is Canadian province experiments with decriminalizing hard drugs, right? So we've understood we are talking about British Columbia over here, and something that you can also learn, it follows a similar policy which is in the US state of Oregon, which had decriminalized hard drugs in 2020. And the rest of it I've already told you about. I mean, the point is not to punish, because even despite punishment, the amount of drug addicts are increasing in the country. So they are sort of taking an alternative path, and they're thinking maybe, counseling such drug addicts might decrease the amount of drug addiction in the system, right? So now the next one is Adani Group calls off to 20,000 crore FPO. Now, I know all of you have been reading about it. Let me give you like a basic background of this. I'm sure you're reading about the Adani Group and the Hindenburg report, and it's been there for a really, really long time. Now, the point is that Hindenburg report has come up, and it has said that Adani Group is doing a lot of gross, Yes, so the Adani Group is doing something really wrong. Brazen stock manipulation and accounting fraud is what is being done by the Adani Group. Now, of course, for the very first time, now let me give you a little word meaning so that we can understand whatever is there in the news, right? So the very first time that a company gives its shares or offers its shares to the public for the very first time is called initial public offering. Something that we must have read about, in case of life insurance corporation. Now over here the terminology that is being used, good evening Utkarsh. So over here the terminology that is being used is FPO, all right, and this is follow on public offer. Now what is follow on public offer? For the very first time when the company is offering its shares to the public, is called IPO or initial public offering. Already listed company when gives its shares to already existing shareholders or even new investors, that particular process is called follow-on public offer. Now, what has happened is on the 24th of January or 25th of January in India, because of course there is a difference in the time and all, right, a New York-based Hindenburg research company has released a report titled Adani Group, How the World's Third Richest Man is Pulling the Largest Con in Corporate History. Now, whenever I have invested in a company and I end up reading that, there is some sort of manipulation that is happening in the company, or whether the company is doing some frauds or some accounting frauds, I tend to take out my money from that company, because this is my hard-earned money and I am investing in a company solely because of the goodwill or the reputation of that company. So on the basis of that reputation, I've put in this my salary into that company. Now, what is my relationship as a shareholder? I hold a relationship of risk and return. So for example, I give a portion of my salary to any company which is listed on the stock exchange. I take up a risk. I know I'm not giving them a debt. I'm taking some shares and I'm giving them some money. Tomorrow that company makes some profit, I will also make a profit alongside. In case the company does not run into profits, obviously I'm not going to get any money out of it. So that is the relationship of a shareholder, right? Now, as a shareholder, how do I know कि कौन सी company में मुझे पैसा लगाना चाहिए और कौन सी company में मुझे पैसा नहीं लगाना चाहिए? So there is something known as the credit rating agencies. Now, the credit rating agencies is much like, for example, going, even before going and watching Pathan, let's say, we've been reading the reviews and we've been looking at Google and we've been seeing how many stars has Pathan got. Or even before going to a restaurant and possibly, trying a new restaurant, we always see the Google reviews and then we sort of make a decision whether or not we want to go to that restaurant. In a very similar manner, whenever I put my hard-earned money and I invest in another company, I also need somebody to come and tell me whether it will be profitable to put money in this company or not. And that company that tells me कि हाँ यार यहाँ पे पैसा लगाना चाहिए, इसको बोलते हैं credit rating agencies. Now, obviously, credit rating agencies are also looking at this report. And we've been reading the newspaper, at the minute the Hindenburg report came in, after some days, Adani Group also, prepared their own report. And they said, no, we are not doing anything wrong. And this is absolutely wrong, whatever Hindenburg has said. And then, there is this word that we are reading in the newspaper these days, and that word is short selling. So, and also Hindenburg is also considered to be a short seller. So let's first understand what is a short seller, and then we will understand what is this FPO, right? Now, what is short selling? Very, very simple. So, for example, there is a company X and the value of one share of that company right now is rupees 100. Okay. Let's say and by the way, this is perfectly legal, right? So I don't own the shares. Let's say I own 1 unit of this share. So I feel that this company, it is going to run into losses. And the value of this share is going to decrease. Now, who has told me this? Nobody has told me this. In case somebody actually comes and tells me about this will be considered as insider trading, and the Securities Exchange Board of India will take cognizance of it. So let's take, for example, I have a sort of view. I feel that, the shares of this company is going to drop for whatever reason. Yeah, so I feel नहीं यार, इसको ना ये ₹50 तक चला जाएगा, इसको मैं आज की डेट पे ही बेच देती हूँ. Let me sell off that 1 unit and put ₹100 in my pocket. Now, I'm so sure that the price of this share is going to decrease in the future. Now I have another way to make more money. So I call up my stockbroker and I say, listen, do you have portfolio? Do you have shares of this particular company? Have you sold it off to other investors? And so he says, yes. So I say, listen, do me a favor, sell off 2 more units of this company and give me that ₹200 in my pocket, knowing fully well that these 2 units don't belong to me. I'm not the owner of these 2 shares. How can I do that? Why would I do that? Well, it is allowed. I'll tell you why. Of course, these 2 units, let's say, belong to you. And so tomorrow, obviously, you would also want those shares. So this is my obligation. I will have to buy these shares again and I would have to put them in your pocket. So let's talk about math. Let's keep it very simple. तो एक शेयर बेचा, ₹100 पॉकेट में रखे. आपके 2 शेयर्स बेचे और ₹200 भी मैंने पॉकेट में रख लिए. कुल मिला के how much have I earned? I've earned ₹300. Now it so happens that I was absolutely correct, and tomorrow what happens is the price of 1 share of this particular company, it reduces to ₹50. ठीक है. अब आपके तो 2 शेयर्स थे, तो मुझे कितने अपनी पॉकेट में से निकाल के देने पड़ेंगे? ₹100. और ₹100 निकाल के 2 शेयर्स मैंने आपके लिए खरीद लिए. आपका कोई नुकसान नहीं हुआ. हाँ, मेरा फायदा जरूर हो गया, राइट? कैसे फायदा हो गया? पहले तो अपना शेयर बेच के how much did I earn? ₹100. Then I sold off 1 unit of myself. I'm so sorry. Right? So I sold off 1 unit of myself and I sold 2 units of yours. And how much did I earn? I earned ₹300. Then how much did I spend from my pocket? ₹100, क्योंकि 2 यूनिट मुझे आपको खरीद के देने थे. ये ₹100 क्यों आए? क्योंकि एक्चुअली जो मैं मानती थी वो एक्चुअली हो गया. The price of 1 share actually decreased. Yes, and so at the end of it all, how much money did I make? I made ₹200 instead of just ₹100. Now this can go wrong also. Of course, if I have like a पक्की खबर कि भाई shares का दाम नीचे गिरने वाला है, वो तभी होगा when there is a lot of manipulation, there is insider trading. What if instead of ₹50, the price of 1 unit becomes 500? फिर तो मुझे पॉकेट से निकाल के देने पड़ेंगे, फिर तो मेरा नुकसान हो जाएगा. So hence short selling is not done by amateurs. It is done by people who actually know the game, who are very much involved in the stock market, and that's their job. Like, they know exactly what is happening, or they can have a very fair idea of what is going to happen. So now coming back to Hindenburg. Hindenburg is considered to be a short seller who basically makes money when the price of a share decreases in the future and they have sort of like an inkling, not like 100% concrete information, but they feel that the prices are going to decrease in the future and they're going to make money out of it. Hindenburg is one of such companies, right? And that is what Adani is saying, that listen, they are short sellers. Now you have to understand, this entire stock market is taken care of by a regulatory agency called Securities Exchange Board of India, which is a statutory body whose chairman is Madhabi Puri Buch, the very first female chairperson, right? Now, SEBI does not allow anyone and everyone to do short selling, correct? There has to be some compliance that have to be taken into consideration. So Adani is alleging that Hindenburg is doing something wrong so that it can make a lot of money. On the other hand, Hindenburg is saying something else, that Adani groups are doing blatant manipulation of shares and they are doing accounting fraud. Now, what is in news? This is just taken from the newspaper. Like I said, whenever we feel that there is some ghapla that is happening in a company, whether or not that is happening, it's a separate deal altogether. But I already know that something like, there was a fiasco involving Vijay Mallya, there was a fiasco involving Nirav Modi. I'm not saying this is a fiasco. For all we know, it might happen that Hindenburg has just done this in order to manipulate the stocks and make a lot of money out of it. But you see, I am a middle income class citizen of this country. I have this hard-earned money. I would not like to gamble away with it. So whenever such a news comes up, obviously the prices of the stocks decrease substantially. Now coming to what happened today and what is in news. So they say the Adani group calls off 20,000 crores of follow-on public offer. So what has happened is IPO नहीं हो रहा है, follow-on public offer हो रहा है. Adani group ने जो लोगों को बोला कि come and purchase our shares, people have purchased it also. It's not as if that they did not purchase it. But right after that, Adani group said, listen, let me first figure out whatever is happening with the Hindenburg report. I, just out of my morals, due to my morals, I don't want to do something immoral. Granted, you've given me money for my shares and I'm very happy for that. But as of now, I'd like to give you back this money. I'd like to sort out this situation and then possibly I will, sell off my shares yet again, is what is in news. Apart from that, you must be reading about it that, a lot is happening in the parliament with respect to the Adani group and the Hindenburg report. And eventually, even the Securities Exchange Board of India is going to do a thorough investigation, which it should. And once the investigation is completed is when we can say whether, who is right and who is wrong. So out of this, what do we need to know? We need to know the Hindenburg report. We need to know the name of the Hindenburg report, which basically said Adani Group, how the world's third richest man is pulling the largest con in corporate history, the title of the report. And of course, like a very basic understanding of what is IPO and what is FPO, right? Okay, so now we can go ahead. The next one is India versus New Zealand. I'm sure everybody must be reading about it. I will reiterate this fact that, your newspaper is completely filled with budget and economic survey. It has already been done. Hence, I'm not touching that. I'm just picking out certain articles which were not, obviously, which are new, which are important. And unfortunately, fortunately, there are very few in number. Yes, so now this one comes up. So India versus New Zealand, third T20 international. India wins by 168 runs and clinches the T20I series 2-1. Everybody knows about it, So this match took place in Narendra Modi Stadium in Ahmedabad, and Shubman Gill gave one of his best performances, and a lot of people are talking about it, and rightly so. And so that is all that you have to keep in mind, is that we have good evening, Chahat, good evening, very good evening. So that's all that you have to keep in mind over here. Let's go ahead. The next one is days of disruption in UK as up to 500,000 join a walkout. So we've been reading about global recession for quite some time now, So global recession is approaching and how it is going to impact different countries. So the very first thing that comes to mind is that you should know what is global recession. Global recession, as the economists put it, as compared to the previous financial year, if my growth is less in 2 successive quarters as compared to the previous financial year if my growth is less in 2 successive quarters. That then, according to economy, is termed as a recession. The last recession, global recession that took place was back in 2008 to 2009 because of a certain group called the Lehman Brothers. Of course, a lot of others were involved in it, but Lehman Brothers took the forefront because there were certain wrong things that they had done. In fact, we've just spoken about short selling. You will be interested to know that during this time, when the 2008 to 2009 recession was going to happen, there were certain players in the stock market who had an inkling that this was going to happen. The value of the shares were going to decrease, and so hence they did a lot of short selling and made a lot of money. There's also a movie on it. I think the name is The Big Short or something. Not that I'm saying that it's important from your CLAT perspective to watch the movie, but yeah. Okay, so now days of disruption in UK as up to 500,000 join a walkout. Now you must be reading this in news that for a really long time, a lot of nurses in the United Kingdom are staging a protest saying, listen, you clapped for us during the COVID-19 pandemic. During the lockdown, you gave us a lot of money and you took real good care of us, and then you applauded whatever we did. But now you're not taking care of us, and now you're not giving us the amount of money that we deserve. And so they have been protesting for a really long time. The news is that now a lot of teachers and civil servants and other employees are also joining them. Here, so I picked this out purposely because of this thing. She says, don't make me use my teacher voice. Yeah. So a lot of people are on the roads, and what are they saying? They're saying that you're not giving us proper conditions of work, neither are you giving us proper salary. So that is what is happening in the United Kingdom. The last time the UK saw a mass walkout on this scale was in 2011, and now this is happening in 2023. Where over 1 million public sector workers staged a one-day strike in a dispute over pensions. Now it is primarily over salaries and also condition of work. Now, there is a lot of inflation that is happening, that is prevalent in the UK right now, which stands at 10.5%. Just to give you a perspective, for us, our optimal inflation is 4% plus minus 2%. While a lot of economists believe that this should also change, but you should keep it in mind that, when there is 4% inflation in India, we call it an optimal inflation that leads to growth. The inflation there is around 10.5%. That is a lot of inflation. Is this going to be called hyperinflation or not? That depends upon how the UK is going to bounce back from it. Now, why is this inflation happening? There are two reasons. One is food and the second is energy costs, right? So, of course, there are many other reasons why, and there are many other factors wherein they are facing a lot of inflation. But food and fuel are two things which are extremely important for any country, So we call it the core inflation. The term that is utilized by economists is called core inflation, wherein we are just talking about the inflation in food and fuel because that forms the core of the economy, correct? So that is what is happening here, and that is happening because of a lot of reasons, because of supply concerns and also because of the geopolitical tensions that are taking place, right? And the International Monetary Fund has said that the Britain will be the only major economy. You can't see it, so I'm going to read it out for you. So IMF has said that UK is going to be the only major economy whose economy is going to contract, or it's going to become very less in this particular year. Even the detrimental impact will be so much that it will be graver than the one that is being faced by Russia owing to the sanctions that are put on Russia. मतलब जितना बैंड रशिया की इकोनॉमी का पड़ रहा है उससे ज़्यादा बैंड बजेगा यूके का. ये मैं नहीं कह रही, इंटरनेशनल मॉनेटरी फंड कह रहा है. ठीक है, so you have to keep this in mind. International Monetary Fund as a body becomes very, very important. So everything from Kristalina Georgieva, Pierre Oliver, who's the chief economist, right, and Geeta Gopinath, who's the deputy managing director, to 190 member countries, to where is the headquarter, which is Washington, D.C., and IMF anyway becomes very important. as you know, because of Pakistan and also because of Sri Lanka. So that is what is happening with respect to the UK. Okay, so coming down to the last point for the day, this is days of disruption in, okay, now, sorry, this one is not related to this. Now, what has happened is Facebook, there was a deal with Facebook and WhatsApp, right? Because of which the new the new WhatsApp privacy policies basically said that everything, all your phone calls and your text messages and all your details, they will be shared with Facebook. Now, people obviously had a problem with it because they say this goes against our right to privacy. What happens to our right to privacy? Because right to privacy, according to the Supreme Court, is an integral part of Article 21 that says protection of life and personal liberty except according to the procedure established by law. So that means till the time there is no law, there is no procedure established by law wherein we can interfere with the personal liberty of a person, till then you will not interfere with our personal liberty. This is my fundamental right. Now, there were petitioners who went to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court bench is basically saying that, listen, till the time our parliament does not make the Data Protection Act, right now it's a bill, till the time it does not get converted into an act, till then our Supreme Court has told WhatsApp that you're going to tell everyone, you're going to write down this particular thing in national newspapers, you're going to advertise this to everyone, that the users who have not accepted their 2016 privacy policies, also 2021 privacy policies, they will not be restrained till the time this bill does not get converted into an act. Matlab ki, agar I don't agree with the privacy policy of WhatsApp, they will not disallow me from using the services of WhatsApp. Till then, we will convert this bill into an act, and then we will see what all can be restrained and what all cannot be restrained. And so that forms a part. Good evening, Vivek. So that forms a part of, this is a judgment. You can know the name of the judgment. This is Karmanya Singh Sareen versus Union of India. Just writing it down because this part of it was not visible to you. Okay, so Karmanya Singh Sareen versus Union of India is the name of the case, and now we've understood what it is all about. Of course, Justice Puttaswamy versus Union of India becomes important, which told us that right to privacy is an intrinsic part of Article 21. As in, when this bill gets converted into an act, we will talk more about it. But till then, that's all for today. The rest of the paper was just filled with economic survey and budget, and I'm sure you guys have done it in detail, so you will be able to understand those articles. Regardless, whatever questions you have, you can ask your mentors, and that's all from my end. Thank you very much. In case you have a question, let me know. Otherwise, that's all for today. We'll meet each other tomorrow with more daily current affairs. Thank you.